Hello there and welcome. This session is designed to help you ease into deep, restful sleep. We'll begin with a simple meditation to calm your body and quiet your mind. Then, as you drift closer to sleep, I'll introduce a gentle bedtime story, just enough to carry you into your dreams. Before we begin, press the like button and subscribe for more sleep story videos. I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment saying where you're listening from and what time. Find a comfortable position, close your eyes, and take a deep breath in and out. Take a slow, deep breath in and exhale gently. One more time, inhale deeply, filling your lungs with fresh, soothing air. And as you exhale, let go of the day, releasing any tension, any thoughts that no longer serve you. With each breath, feel your body becoming lighter, more at ease, sinking into comfort. You're doing great. Next, bring your awareness to the top of your head. Imagine a warm, gentle light resting there, like the soft glow of a bedside lamp. This light begins to spread slowly, easing away any tension in your forehead, softening the space between your eyebrows, relaxing your eyelids, your cheeks, your jaw. There's nothing you need to hold on to. Just let everything soften, loosen, unwind. Feel your shoulders drop slightly as if a weight has been lifted. Your arms become heavy, sinking into deep relaxation. With every breath, this warmth moves lower, your chest rising and falling effortlessly, your stomach soft and calm, your legs and feet completely at rest. The world around you fades into quiet. There is nothing to do, nowhere to be. Just this moment, just rest. Imagine yourself wrapped in a cozy, soft blanket of stillness, safe, warm, and peaceful. Each breath carries you deeper into comfort, deeper into rest, deeper into sleep. And here's tonight's cozy bedtime story. The Sleepy Dragon's Lullaby. In the Valley of Dragons, nestled between jagged peaks and shrouded in mist, young Luma struggled to find her place. Unlike the other dragonlings who practiced their fierce roars and belched searing fire, she preferred to hum soft melodies that danced like whispers on the wind. Her voice, though soothing, was often met with disapproval, particularly from Elder Draknor, the oldest and most formidable dragon in the valley. Dragons are creatures of might and power, Luma, he would often chide, his voice a deep rumble that made the ground tremble, not of song and softness. Yet, no matter how hard she tried, Luma could not summon the roaring flames that her peers produced so effortlessly. Her fire came only as a weak ember, and her roar was little more than a breeze through autumn leaves. The other young dragons laughed, calling her names, Feather Breath, Hush Flame, but Luma did not mind. She had her songs, and they filled her heart with warmth in a way fire never could. One evening, as the sun dipped low, casting golden light over the valley, a disturbance rippled through the air. The scent of something unfamiliar wafted through Luma's keen nostrils, something neither dragon nor beast. The others smelled it too, and soon a deep collective growl echoed through the valley. "A human!" one of the elder dragons hissed. Luma's golden eyes widened as she spotted the source of the commotion. Stumbling through the undergrowth was a boy, no older than 10, his clothes tattered and his face streaked with dirt. Fear was painted across his features, his wide eyes darting between the towering dragons that loomed above him. The valley was forbidden to humans, and the elder dragons prepared to chase him away. "Shall we burn him out?" growled Elder Draknor, his great wings unfurling. "No, he's just a child," Luma said, stepping forward, her voice barely above a whisper. But the other dragons were unmoved. Luma knew she had to act fast. Without thinking, she opened her mouth and let her song spill into the air, a melody woven with warmth and peace. It floated like the first gentle snowfall of winter, threading its way into the ears and hearts of those who heard it. The effect was immediate. Rowan, the lost boy, blinked sluggishly, his terror melting like morning mist. His trembling ceased, and a peaceful sigh escaped his lips as he slumped onto a bed of moss, his breathing steady, his face serene. Even the elder dragons hesitated, their aggressive stances softening ever so slightly. Elder Draknor's gaze snapped to Luma, a flicker of something unreadable in his ancient eyes. "What is this?" he murmured. Luma didn't know the answer. She only knew that her song had calmed the boy, where fire and ferocity would have only fueled his fear. The other dragons murmured among themselves, puzzled yet intrigued. Never before had a dragon's voice possessed such an effect. Fire could destroy, claws could tear, wings could soar, but Luma's song could soothe, could mend, could lull even fear itself into slumber. Elder Draknor studied her for a long moment before turning away. "Keep watch over him," he rumbled, the weight of a decision hanging in his words. "Perhaps there is more to your gift than we realized." As the night fell and the stars blinked into existence, Luma curled around the sleeping boy, her heart swelling with a newfound sense of belonging. Maybe she wasn't meant to be fierce like the others. Maybe, just maybe, there was a different kind of strength in gentleness, a power that the Valley of Dragons had yet to understand. And so, beneath the silver moon, Luma sang once more, her lullaby weaving dreams of peace, of warmth, of a place where even the softest voice could be heard. The kingdom of Eldoria stood on the brink of ruin. Nights stretched endlessly, each hour burdened by the weight of sleeplessness. Fields withered, artisans lost their touch, and healers grew too fatigued to tend to the ill. Even the grand halls of the castle, once alive with music and laughter, had become somber chambers filled with whispers of despair. The people's strength waned, their hope diminishing like a candle flickering in the wind. King Aldrich, weary and desperate, sent his fastest riders in search of a dragon, a mighty ancient force that could perhaps shatter the curse that plagued Eldoria. Legend spoke of dragons as beings of immense power, creatures capable of reshaping the world with their will alone. Yet in the castle's highest tower, Princess Alira stood gazing out over the restless city, her heart weighed with doubt. Was it truly brute strength that they needed? Alira had spent days searching the archives, poring over tomes and scrolls that chronicled the land's history. Hidden within an old, fragile manuscript, she had found mention of a dragon unlike any other, a dragon not of fire and fury, but of wisdom and serenity. It was said that this dragon, called Siltharion, had once aided the rulers of old, not through battle, but through the gift of peace. If there was any truth to the ancient texts, then perhaps Siltharion was the key to lifting the curse. Determined, Alira presented her findings to her father. "We must not seek a beast of war," she urged. "What if the curse is not something that can be broken with fire and destruction? What if it is something that must be undone with understanding and balance?" King Aldrich, though skeptical, could not ignore the wisdom in his daughter's words. He granted her leave to embark on her own quest, to seek out this dragon of peace. Accompanied by a small company of trusted knights and scholars, Alira set out toward the Whispering Highlands, where the manuscripts claimed Siltharion had last been seen. Their journey was long and arduous. As they traveled, they encountered villages where the people, too weak to continue working their lands, had begun to abandon their homes. Stories of restless nights and shadowed dreams followed them, reinforcing the urgency of their mission. When at last they reached the Whispering Highlands, the wind howled through the cliffs like a mournful song. No fires burned, no signs of life marked the craggy expanse, only silence and the distant call of the wind. Yet Alira refused to turn back. For days they searched, until one evening, as the sun bled into the horizon, they found themselves at the mouth of an ancient cavern. There, beneath the light of the dying sun, a voice, deep as the roots of the world, echoed through the air. "You seek me, child of Eldoria?" A great form emerged from the darkness, its scales shimmering like silver in the twilight. Unlike the fearsome dragons of legend, Siltharion's presence exuded an aura of calm. His eyes, vast pools of wisdom, studied them with quiet patience. Alira stepped forward and knelt. "Great Siltharion, our kingdom suffers. A curse has robbed us of sleep, draining the life from our people. We were told only a dragon's power could lift it. But I believe it is your wisdom we need, not your might." The dragon regarded her in silence before speaking. "The curse upon Eldoria is not born of magic alone, but of imbalance. The land is wounded, and so its people suffer. You seek to banish the affliction, yet the true path lies in healing the breach that caused it." Alira's heart pounded. "How do we heal it?" Siltharion's wings unfurled slightly, casting shifting shadows across the cavern walls. "Long ago, your ancestors forged a pact with the spirits of nature, a bond of harmony between the land and those who dwelled upon it. But over generations, greed and ambition led to neglect. The wells that once flowed with enchanted waters have run dry. The sacred groves, once tended with care, now wither. The land's voice is lost beneath the clamor of industry and war. Realization dawned upon Alira. If the kingdom had broken its pact with nature, then the sleepless curse was a consequence, not a random affliction. "What must we do?" she asked. "You must restore the balance. Find the ancient wells, awaken the sacred groves, offer reverence where it has been forgotten. Only when the land is at peace will its people find rest." Alira bowed deeply. "Then guide us, great Siltharian. Help us mend what was broken." The dragon's gaze softened. "I shall lead you to the first of the lost wells, but the journey ahead will not be easy. There will be those who resist change, those who would rather seek power than harmony. Are you prepared for this?" Alira lifted her chin, determination burning in her eyes. "For Eldoria I will do whatever it takes." And so, with Siltharian as their guide, the princess and her companions set forth on a new path, not one of war, but of restoration. The fate of Eldoria hung in the balance, and only through understanding and unity could the kingdom find solace once more. The royal messenger had barely dismounted before he collapsed, his face streaked with sweat and dust from the arduous journey. "The kingdom, Eldoria, is under siege," he gasped, clutching his side as though the very weight of his words drained him. Elder Draknor, his golden scales catching the dim sunlight, listened intently. The council of dragons gathered around, their keen eyes filled with skepticism and intrigue. "And you ask us for aid, human?" Draknor's voice was deep, reverberating through the valley. The messenger nodded vigorously. "The shadow horde grows stronger by the day. The royal army cannot hold them off much longer. Without your help, Eldoria will fall." A murmur spread among the dragons. Many looked toward Bralnok, the fiercest of their warriors, his obsidian scales glinting ominously. But before Draknor could summon him, a smaller voice interrupted. "Wait!" Rowan stepped forward, her emerald eyes blazing with determination. "Luma should go." The valley fell silent, save for the rustling of the wind through the trees. Then laughter erupted from several of the gathered dragons. "Luma?" one of the elders scoffed. "The little one who sings to the stars? What use is a lullaby against an army?" Luma, their pale blue wings tucked in uncertainty, took a hesitant step forward. "My gift may not be of claws and fire, but songs have power too. Let me prove it." Draknor studied Luma for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Very well, let Luma fly to Eldoria." The doubts of the others lingered in the air as Luma spread their wings and took flight, leaving the Valley of Dragons behind. Their heart pounded as they soared toward the distant kingdom, uncertain but hopeful. The journey was long, and Eldoria came into view just as the first stars flickered in the evening sky. Smoke curled from the city walls, the acrid scent of battle filling the air. The streets were lined with desperate soldiers, their armor dented, their faces weary. Luma landed atop the castle battlements where King Aldrich stood with his generals. The sight of the dragon startled them, but the royal messenger, now rested, stepped forward. "This is the aid from the Valley of Dragons." The king frowned. "One dragon?" His voice held both disbelief and desperation. Luma met his gaze. Not just a dragon, a song. Skepticism flashed across the faces of the gathered warriors, but they had little choice. The shadow horde was already gathering beyond the walls, their monstrous forms moving like a dark tide. As the enemy advanced, Luma took to the sky. Hovering above the battlefield, they closed their eyes and began to sing. The melody was soft at first, weaving through the wind like a whisper. Then it grew, a celestial chorus echoing over the land. The very air seemed to hum with the song's magic. Soldiers on both sides faltered. The warriors of Eldoria stood taller, their exhaustion lifting, but the shadow horde staggered, their monstrous howls turning to confused cries. The dark magic binding them wavered. Some dropped their weapons, others turned and fled, their wills broken by the lullaby's embrace. The battle raged on, but with renewed strength, Eldoria's warriors pushed forward, driving the shadow horde into retreat. As dawn broke over the battlefield, the enemy was gone, scattered like a bad dream. Luma landed, their wings trembling with exhaustion. The king approached, awe in his eyes. "You have saved Eldoria. Your song has done what swords could not." The valley's dragons had doubted, but now, as Luma lifted their head in quiet triumph, they knew they had found their power, and the world would never doubt them again. The first light of dawn stretched its golden fingers over the spires of Eldoria, illuminating a kingdom caught between wonder and disbelief. I sat on the castle's highest balcony, the cool stone pressing against my scaled belly, watching as the city below stirred to life. A hush of astonishment still lingered in the air. Hushed whispers and stolen glances exchanged between citizens who, for the first time in months, had awoken from a full night's rest. I curled my tail around myself, letting out a satisfied hum. My voice had worked. My lullaby had reached even the farthest corners of Eldoria. Yet I could feel the tension lingering in the wind. Not all were convinced that peace had truly returned. A sharp knock at the door drew my attention. "Enter," I called, keeping my tone light despite the unease curling in my gut. The heavy wooden doors creaked open, and Princess Alira stepped inside. Her silver hair caught the morning light, glistening like strands of moonlight. Her violet eyes held a mixture of relief and concern. She had fought for me when the king and his council had doubted. It was because of her faith that I had been given a chance at all. "Luma," she greeted softly, stepping closer. "The people are waking refreshed, but some among the council still fear this is only a temporary reprieve. They demand proof that the curse is truly broken." I sighed, unfolding my wings slightly. I expected as much. Curses are not so easily unraveled. The magic that plagued your kingdom was powerful. Alira nodded, her delicate fingers twisting in the fabric of her gown. "We must find the source. If the sleepless curse was merely a symptom of something greater." She trailed off, concern knitting her brows. A deep, weathered voice echoed from the hall. "And what if this dragon's magic is but another trick?" I turned to see the king himself enter, his long royal robes flowing behind him. His presence carried the weight of his people's suffering, and though his eyes were softer than the night before, I could see the shadow of doubt in them. I met his gaze without wavering. "Your Majesty, I have no desire to deceive you. If there is a deeper darkness at play, I will help you find it." He studied me for a long moment before giving a slow nod. "Then you will accompany my knights and my daughter to the ruins of Veldrin. The court sorcerers suspect the curse may have originated there." A shiver passed through my scales. I had heard whispers of Veldrin, a place where magic had once thrived but had long since been abandoned. If the darkness had festered there, then we were not facing a mere curse. We were facing something older, something patient. I nodded. "I will go." Alira smiled, though the worry never left her eyes. "Then we leave at sunset." The ruins of Veldrin loomed before us as the last rays of sunlight bled from the sky. The wind howled through crumbling stone, carrying with it the scent of ancient magic. My claws dug into the earth as I inhaled, sensing something cold and insidious slithering beneath the surface. Sir Aldrich, the commander of the Royal Knights, held his torch high. "Stay close. These ruins are cursed ground." I could feel the weight of his suspicion pressing against me, but I said nothing. Instead, I focused on the whispers that curled in the shadows, voices too faint to understand, yet too persistent to ignore. Alira stepped beside me. "Do you hear them?" she murmured. I nodded. "They are restless." As we ventured deeper, the ruins pulsed with a heartbeat not my own. My scales prickled. The sleepless curse had been but an echo of something much larger, something that was waking. Then the ground trembled. A deep, guttural voice rasped through the air. "Who dares disturb my slumber?" A figure rose from the darkness, a wraith-like form wreathed in shadows, its hollow eyes burning with an eerie blue light. My breath caught. This was no ordinary curse. This was a being of old magic. The knights drew their swords, but steel would be of little use here. I stepped forward. "I am Luma. I broke the curse upon Eldoria, and I will face you." The entity's laughter was like the creak of old bones. "Then let us see if your voice holds power against the song of the forgotten." As it spoke, a chorus of whispers rose, weaving together in a melody that clawed at my mind, seeking to unravel me from within. I closed my eyes, steadying myself. Then I let my own song rise, a lullaby of warmth and light, a melody spun from hope itself. The ruins shuddered, the wraith recoiling as my voice met its ancient dirge. I stood at the heart of Eldoria, my voice trembling as my latest lullaby faded into the hush of night. The air was thick with uncertainty, and the hush was not the peaceful one I had hoped for. It was the weight of fear, the silent grip of doubt tightening around every heart, including my own. The Shadowcaster's laughter echoed through the streets, threading through the alleys like smoke, seeping into my bones. How quaint, they mocked, stepping from the darkness. Cloaked in shadows, their presence felt like a wound in the fabric of the world, a tear through which nightmares bled. You think a mere song can fight what I have built? I clenched my fists, my breath shaky. I know it can. They tilted their head, amused. And yet the people still wake with haunted eyes. They dream of fire, of monsters, of their deepest regrets. Tell me, little songbird, why do you persist? Because I had to. Because if I let go, if I gave in to despair, then who else would stand against them? Yet the seed of doubt had been planted. Were my lullabies only a fragile balm, a fleeting comfort before the nightmares returned? Was it even possible to drown out a force so deeply rooted in darkness with mere melodies? The shadowcaster's smirk deepened as though reading my mind. You see the truth now, don't you? Chaos is the only constant. Fear is the most loyal companion. My nightmares take root because they are what lies beneath all illusions of peace. I shook my head, stepping forward. No, that's not true. People dream of hope, of love, of futures worth waking up for. Do they? The sorcerer flicked their wrist, and darkness pooled at their feet. It slithered like ink, curling into the shape of a child, eyes hollow, face contorted in silent terror. Tell me, what do you sing to a child who has seen war, who has lost their family? My voice wavered. I had sung to orphans, to the grieving, to those who knew pain as intimately as breath. But their suffering was real. No song could erase the past. The shadowcaster watched me, triumphant. You cannot sing away truth. You cannot lull reality into something softer. I wanted to refute them, but their words gnawed at me. Was I only offering empty dreams? Then from the crowd a voice rose, a small trembling voice. Luma? I turned to see a young girl, her face familiar. She had been among the first I had sung to. She had once wept every night, haunted by memories of fire. But now she stood blinking at me, her hands clenched at her sides. I still dream, she whispered. I still hear your songs even when I sleep. The shadowcaster's expression darkened. A coincidence, they spat. A murmur ran through the people gathered around us. Others stepped forward. I dreamed of my mother's embrace last night. I saw the stars again, not fire. I remembered laughter. Their voices joined, growing stronger, a chorus of defiance against the nightmares. And in that moment I understood. My songs were not a cure. They were not spells to banish fear forever. But they were light, a candle in the darkness, a reminder that even in the worst of times, there was something else, something other than fear, to hold on to. I lifted my chin, turning back to the shadowcaster. You're wrong, I said, voice steady. Darkness might always exist, but so does kindness. So does hope, and I will never stop singing. Their smirk faltered, their shadow writhing in unease. Fool, they hissed. You think your lullabies can break my curse? I took a deep breath and began to sing. Not to defy them, not as a weapon, but for the people of Eldoria, for the girl who still dreamed, for the ones who had found even the smallest comfort in my voice. And as my song filled the air, the darkness did not vanish. The curse did not break, but it recoiled. The nightmares hesitated. The grip of fear loosened, if only by a thread. I saw the shadow caster clench their fists, their form flickering. The last notes of my song hung in the air, shimmering like golden threads woven into the fabric of Eldoria itself. The Shadowcaster's form, once a towering storm of obsidian tendrils, had crumbled, reduced to nothing more than whispering echoes fading into the void. The darkness that had plagued our land for so long was no more. A hush fell over the kingdom. Then, as if awakening from a long nightmare, the people of Eldoria gasped, their breath catching in unison before erupting into joyous cries. The skies above, once cloaked in swirling black clouds, now shone with hues of soft pink and brilliant gold. Sunlight streamed down upon the castle walls, illuminating the faces of the people who had lived too long under fear's heavy weight. I swayed where I stood, my body trembling. Power unlike anything I had ever known had flowed through me, a force of warmth, courage, and unity manifesting into song. The very air still hummed with it. But now that the battle was over, exhaustion crashed into me like a wave against the shore. A pair of strong arms caught me before I could collapse. I turned my head and met the worried gaze of Prince Adric, his emerald eyes searching mine. "Luma," he breathed, his voice a mixture of relief and awe. "You did it. The kingdom is free." Adric's words barely registered before I found myself enveloped in the embrace of the people. Villagers, knights, children, everyone reached for me, their hands brushing against my arms, my shoulders, as if touching me would assure them this was real, that the darkness was truly gone. Their joy surged through me, and I let out a breathless laugh, my heart swelling with their warmth. "Luma, Luma, the light-bearer!" they chanted, lifting me onto their shoulders. The title was new, yet it settled into my soul as if it had always been mine. Eldoria had suffered under the Shadowcaster's tyranny for years. I had suffered. My parents, taken by his wretched sorcery, had left me an orphan, my home burned to cinders. My voice, once something I used only for quiet songs in the dark, had become my greatest weapon. And now it had become the kingdom's salvation. As the celebration swelled around me, a familiar figure stepped forward. Queen Isolde, regal even with tears streaming down her cheeks, placed a hand upon my shoulder. "Eldoria owes you a debt we can never repay," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "You have saved us, Luma. You have proven that true strength does not always come from steel or fire, but from the light within." I bowed my head, humbled. I only did what my heart told me was right. She smiled, cupping my face gently. "And that is why you prevailed." That evening, the kingdom held a grand feast in the palace square. Tables overflowed with food and drink, laughter rang through the streets, and music filled the air. For the first time in years, Eldoria knew peace. Yet as I sat among my friends and newfound family, a quiet thought nestled itself into the corner of my mind. The Shadowcaster was gone. But darkness was a part of the world. It always would be. If I had the power to banish it once, then I had the power to keep it at bay. My voice, my song, could be a beacon for more than just Eldoria. Adric must have noticed my distant expression, for he leaned closer. "What troubles you?" I met his gaze, a new determination solidifying within me. This was only the beginning. There are other lands beyond Eldoria that still suffer under shadows of their own. I cannot turn my back on them. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded, a slow smile spreading across his face. "Then you won't face it alone." The warmth of his words settled deep in my chest. I glanced around at the people who had once been strangers, now bound to me through song and light. They would rebuild, they would thrive. And if ever darkness returned, I knew they would stand strong. Tomorrow I would set out beyond Eldoria's borders. My journey was far from over. But tonight, under the stars that had once seemed so distant, I allowed myself to simply be, to celebrate, to love, and to embrace the light we had all fought so hard to reclaim. The decision was mine to make, and though the weight of it pressed heavy on my heart, I knew there was no other path for me. I had wielded swords, danced through battlefields, and felt the searing heat of war in my veins. Yet, in the hush that followed victory, as Eldoria stood on the brink of something new, I found my purpose not in the clamor of combat, but in the quiet that followed it. I would stay, not as a warrior, but as a guardian of peace. The sky above Eldoria stretched wide and endless, streaked with the warm hues of dawn. My dragon Cithril rumbled a low purr beneath me as I sat atop the cliffs overlooking the valley. The kingdom below was still waking, the faint chiming of blacksmiths and the distant laughter of children carrying on the breeze. It was a sound I had once feared I would never hear again. Now it was a promise of what was to come. "My lady," a voice called behind me. I turned to see Elendor, the king's advisor, his robes brushing against the ground as he approached. His eyes, wise and knowing, searched mine for certainty. "You are sure of this?" I nodded. "Eldoria has seen enough bloodshed. It does not need another warrior. It needs something else." His lips parted as though to object, but he found no words. He had seen me in battle, knew well the force I could command, and yet he had also seen me in the quiet moments, when my hands reached for the wounded instead of my blade. "Then may the kingdom know peace under your watch," he said finally, bowing his head. Cithril exhaled a warm breath, scales shimmering like liquid gold under the rising sun. I pressed my forehead against his, feeling the deep pulse of his heart, steady, unshaken. He had been my strength in battle, but he too understood that our strength did not lie in destruction, but in something greater. The days that followed were filled with change. The walls of Eldoria, once built for war, now bore banners of unity instead of conquest. I walked among the people, not as a knight, but as a presence of assurance. Farmers who had once taken up arms returned to their fields. Healers no longer feared an influx of the wounded. Children, wide-eyed and curious, followed me through the streets, daring each other to ask if they could touch a dragon's wing. At night, when the world quieted and worries lingered in the hearts of those who had suffered loss, I would sit atop the tallest spire of the castle, Cithril curled around me. It was then that I would hum an old lullaby, one my mother had once sung to me, a song of peace, of hope, of a world not ruled by the clash of swords, but by the gentle strength of those who sought to protect it. The people of Eldoria came to recognize it. Whenever hardship arose, when storms tore through crops or disputes threatened to divide, they needed only to listen. The lullaby would rise through the night, carried on the wind, a reminder that peace was not a fleeting dream, but something we could hold if only we dared to believe in it. Some days I wondered if I had made the right choice. There were still battles beyond Eldoria, wars fought in distant lands where my blade might have made a difference. But then I would see a father lift his daughter into his arms without fear of losing her to war, or watch a merchant return home without the dread of raiders along the road. And I would know I had chosen well. Strength is not always in force. It is in the patience to mend, in the courage to forgive, in the steadfastness to stand for peace even when war whispers its tempting call. Eldoria had seen enough warriors. Now it had a guardian, and whenever they needed me, they had only to listen for the song of the dragon's lullaby.